Hello and welcome to the Daily Neloo. Today I want to introduce you guys to Ellie Shoja. I talk about Ellie a lot. She is my business partner. She's the founder of Peace Unleashed, and she's also a writer.
Yeah, I say that the through line in my life is always writing. It's storytelling. So I've done a lot of different things. I've had a lot of different businesses. I'm a serial entrepreneur, but writing has always been the through line.
Today I want to specifically talk about blank page writing.
Yes.
And the difficulty in blank page
Absolutely.
writing. So maybe just explain, why is it so difficult for people?
I mean, the blank page is intimidating. It's scary. It's very difficult to sit down in front of a blank page and start writing. And I actually got that term, blank page writing, from a friend of ours, David Zucker, who's renowned filmmaker, director, writer. He's written Airplane, Naked Guns, the last 3 scary movies. So he's very accomplished, and he will tell you he hates blank page writing. And that's why they did a lot of spoofs, because they would start,
there was already a script.
Exactly. They would start with the straight script and then they would add the jokes, right? So I don't do that. I am a blank page writer. I don't take somebody else's work and then embellish it and make it better and or funnier or whatever, right? So a lot of my writing partnerships then end up being with people who don't like blank pages. So I do the blank page and then they do everything else. They do the rewrites. It is scary. Where do you begin? What do you do? It's intimidating, right? And then we get into our own heads, and it's very hard to get started and get going and keep that momentum going so that you have something to work with.
Blank page writing can apply to writing a script, writing a book, or even creating a PowerPoint presentation.
Yes.
What are some tips you can share as far as how people can lower that intimidation level and really see it more as it's an opportunity to create?
Yeah. The most important part of that is giving yourself space for the idea to bubble up to the surface. Whatever goes on the blank page, you're not on the hook for it, right? And what do I mean by that, right? What do you mean, Ellie? What do you mean I'm not on the hook for it? I'm writing it. I'm doing it, right? My name's on it. But the blank page is an opportunity for you to kind of connect with the source of inspiration within yourself, right? And the only way to do that is to get very quiet. Now, as part of one of the many things that I do, I paint murals.
Yes.
And this is perhaps one of the most visceral ways of kind of describing what blank page is. Like Michelangelo said, all I'm doing is I'm releasing the sculpture that's already in the marble. I'm chipping away everything that is not the sculpture, right? And the same thing happens when you're staring at a blank wall, and the only idea I have is that my sister, for example, she wanted a tree for my niece, and I stared at the wall and I saw the entire thing come to life, and it was this beautiful scene with flowers and a lake and trees and butterflies and so forth, right? So once you see it, then it's just, the first draft is done. It's done in your mind, and so now you can complete it. The same thing with the blank page. You sit and stare at it until you connect to that kind of seed of inspiration within yourself. And then once you have that, you can start writing and it just flows out of you.
In the corporate world, you might be under a lot of pressure to turn around something. So how can you sit and allow for that inspiration to come when you're under some type of time crunch, or your boss is like, where's that PowerPoint?
This is, by the way, why a lot of kind of creative corporate environments like advertising agencies and design agencies, why designers and advertisers work ridiculous hours. Because you literally cannot be creative if you don't give yourself that space. Right. And what I would say to somebody who's in a type of environment where that's not kind of understood and embraced, is you have to create space for yourself internally, right? Meditation is a fantastic tool. We actually have a meditation a challenge coming up. So if this is kind of piquing your interest, join the challenge. It's completely free. Learn how to meditate, and you get to create the space that I'm talking about internally. Even a couple of minutes of quieting and stepping back creates a type of clarity that is completely out of reach if you're not willing to sit for those 2 minutes, right? Science actually shows that when you meditate for 10 minutes, you change the physiology of your brain. You change your brain waves. They go from high betas, they drop down into those mid-range and low betas and down into alpha waves. And we know that that flow state that everybody's kind of chasing is the low alpha, right? It's in that low alpha. So how are you going to be creative if you're operating out of stress? It's impossible.
And this applies to blank page writing, but it also applies to if you're brainstorming for something and you're feeling stuck, taking that time to kind of get centered and allowing the breath to flow. Ellie, any other final tips?
I do have a final thought that I do want to share with your viewers, and it's a very simple thought, and it might spark something in your mind. But throughout our day, we ask a lot of questions. We ask and ask and ask and ask and ask, but we never pause to listen for the answer. And if you take anything away from this, take this idea that staring at a blank page is scary if you're not listening to the answers that are already within you. It becomes a lot less scary if you're willing to just listen.
Inspiration may come through a thought or a feeling or just a knowing, because we receive information in different ways. Well, Ellie, thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Sharing all these wonderful tips with our audience.
My pleasure. Thank you. If this is like sparking more questions for you and you want to continue the dialogue, a really great way to kind of get in touch with us is on LinkedIn, obviously, but also on Instagram at Peace Unleashed. And I do live question and answer sessions on Peace Unleashed Instagram page. So you can actually hop on.
Yeah, and she'll take requests.
And I'll take, if you send a message through the DMs on Instagram, and there's a chance that we can actually schedule a time for us to do a live while we're both together on at the same time, and I can answer your questions live, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and don't hold back, because if you have the question, chances are many other people do as well. That's all the time we have for today, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.